guys, my name's Caroline. I'm a senior lecturer at Montfort University in fashion design. I hope you enjoy the PowerPoint I've put together and have a go at some of the creative art working ideas. I look forward to seeing your results hopefully, and look forward to meeting you soon. So I'm just going to talk through a short PowerPoint with you guys just to show you how to create some really interesting imagery with sort of limited materials. These could be for lots of different ideas, for concept development, just sort of developing a narrative, any kind of ideas you want to get down quickly using sort of lots of colour and collage. I usually start with I work on 6 pieces at once. So I normally use like a 5x7 piece of card. Alternatively, you could use A5. You could also use A4. So for example, if you were creating artwork for a zine, which is like a mini magazine, you might want to create 4 A5 and 1 A4 sort of double page spread, just so you can see what your artwork looks like across 2 pages. Just for the purposes of this workshop, I have worked on 6 5x7 pieces of card. So you can use just mount board or any kind of cardboard, anything like that. Papers usually kind of buckles a little bit with the acrylic paint, so something a bit stiff is usually a lot better. So I will choose 3 colours as my background. So always paint the card completely all the way over first. Don't ever work on sort of white card. You need to sort of build up layers of colour, and it just becomes much more vibrant and interesting than just working on a plain white background. So I've chosen 3 colours that kind of complement and clash with one another. You could choose colours that are from your colour palette that you might have developed during your concept work. So just a small blob of paint on each card, and then give those a really good coating of paint and just set those aside to dry. What I do, what I have just in my art room, is an old hairdryer. So if I want to do things in a bit more of a hurry, I'll just give those a quick blast with the hairdryer. So your next stage then is to create another layer of sort of pattern. You can do this in many different ways. There's lots of things that you could use mark making with just around the home, like sponges and that kind of thing, bits of cardboard. But I really like using sort of packaging, like bubble wrap, that kind of thing. So in these images you can see some examples of those bits of packaging. I found a really nice one with a kind of a lozenge shape on it. So what you do, you don't paint directly onto the bubble wrap or the packaging. You paint on a palette or just a piece of card, and then you press the bubble wrap onto that. And then when you've got a nice coating on, then you press that onto your cards. So choosing like a nice kind of contrasting colour, or it could be quite subtle if you want to. And these ones show the combination of the bubble wrap and the lozenge shape. Some of them stand out really well, some of them are a bit more subtle. So that's your next stage, and obviously you need to wait for that to dry again, so you could blast that with a hairdryer. Then we'll start sort of building up with bits of collage. So anything that you found, you might have leftover research imagery, you might have some magazine tears. My set are quite random, just going for sort of really random imagery and bits of sort of typography. But you could be working with a really strong concept and a narrative that would work alongside your project. So we're just starting to play around. We're just sort of placing things on, cutting things out, moving them around. We might try them on several of the different backgrounds just to see which colours look good on which, before we sort of start sticking them down. So when we actually start sticking them down, I use a mixture of PVA glue and a little bit of water, and you just give that a good coating on the back, stick them down, and then also glue over the top of them as well. So you're painting on the back and then you're painting over them just to kind of really embed them onto the artwork. Just makes it look sort of more permanent and professional. So that's your next stage. And then moving on, I might sort of like to draw back into these. Also, using things like Posca pens are great because you can draw on anything with a Posca pen. If you've got a dark colour background, you can draw with like a bright yellow, pink or white Posca and it will show up. Also, inks are great just to add another different sort of mark making idea. You could drip some ink on there or draw around some of your shapes with ink or pen. And these are some examples of the kind of finished pieces. So just lots of different ideas. So I've drawn round some of my mark making shapes and then filled in with some ink. I've done that in a couple of different ways, like the smaller bubble wrap one you can see on the right hand side. I've drawn around with a very fine pen, and I've drawn back into some of the images as well, just to give those a bit more definition. The Everything is Cool one you can see here, I've gone around the whole edge of that with white ink, because there was white around one of the images, but I wanted to bring that image all together just to make it look more cohesive. And on these last set, I've used sort of dribbly ink, and I've drawn around the one on the right with red ink just straight from the pipette. The one on the left, I've let that sort of dribble. Again, you could leave these to dry, and then you could again work back into these. The ink takes a while to dry. You could dry it with a hairdryer, but sometimes if you dry ink with a hairdryer, it will move it around a bit more, so it's best just to leave that. So you could go back and work into these again, but I was quite happy with the way these turned out. And you can see the set there that I've got. And I'm just going to show you some examples of when we did this in a taught session. So these are some of the ones that some students created, and you should be able to see that they've got a really strong kind of colour story. Each set has got its own kind of identity. Some really interesting sort of ideas going on here that are really kind of lively and interesting. And you can see this one, we've got this lovely set here about witchcraft. We've got this great colour palette of black, lilac and the neon yellow, and they've had a go at like a double page spread as well there, so that's always another nice idea for you to try. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed looking at that PowerPoint. It'd be great if you could have a go at this. Like you say, you don't need many materials. You could use some sort of recycled cardboard to have a go on, and it's quite a fun sort of task to get involved in.